Hi guys, it is time with Dr. Green. As you might already know, my name is Enoch and I go by the nickname Dr. Green. In this video, I want to share with you how the Lord made me know I've got to be a neurosurgeon after spending 2 years as a forestry student. And of course, He made me understood why He gave me such precious 2 years as a forestry student.
This meeting is being recorded.
There's some dogs in this house. 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 There's some dogs in this house.
I said certified geek. Zoom 7 days a week. Study so hard. Make that circadian rhythm weak. Yeah, you're messing with an online MC. Got an iPad and green screen for this online MT. Given everything we got for this online MT.
Gotta prep, baby, gotta charge. Videos long and extra hard. Put anatomy right in your face.
Yeah, so as a young kid growing up in Birmingham, I knew I loved to fix things. You know, my dad would buy a radio set and my younger brother and I, in a few days, we will dismantle it, just looking for that tiny motor, and we will put a blade on top and join some batteries to it just to see it moving. And when it moves, we become very, very excited. And my dad would be like, "Yeah, you're gonna be an engineer. My sons are gonna be an engineer." So I was like, yeah, I'm gonna fix the thing, so I've gotta be an engineer. You know, for my younger brother Philip, he wanted to be a pilot and he always joined me in dismantling the radio sets, and currently he is a petroleum engineering student in the school that I have been a forestry student for the past 2 years. Yeah, so in senior high school, I was still thinking of becoming an engineer. You know, I thought I'll be an engineer, so I kept reading physics. You know, I took physics seriously, but my favorite subject since primary school have always been chemistry. But I was reading biology alongside, not because I had a clue that I'll be like interested in medicine. You know, if anybody told me in SHS that you're gonna fall in love with medicine like few years to come, I would have said only in the Disney world, because I knew I'm homophobic. I hate to see blood, and not alone to mention being a surgeon where you gotta see blood almost all the time. So I was reading biology actually because I thought that for me to be successful in engineering and, you know, like making a robot that can talk, making a robot that can see and process and react, I've got to understand how the human body functions first. That is how I can be, you know, successful in bringing out a robot that is more like a human being. So I was just reading biology anyhow from different books, you know, but for physics, I was just conscious about it, reading it just because I knew I wanted to be an engineer. And I found out that the more I knew, the more I could produce. So I was just reading more. I didn't think about our final leaving exams like the WASI. So my teachers always be like, you know, you write too much in your examination. That is good, not that you're wrong, that is good, it's gonna help you in the tertiary education, but for now, because of the WASI, I've gotta focus more on what it teaches in class, other than reading in depth, that I should do now. That I'll be like, no, if this is the right thing, then why don't I do the right thing now? You know, in Ghana, there is something like our teachers used to say, the invigilators. Oh, it's invigilators. Sorry. I mean the examiners, those who mark our final leaving examination. They always say the more papers that you mark, the more money that you get. So they ain't got time to go through your lengthy explanations and detailed answers. They only mark what is in your marking scheme, even though some of them might not do that, but most of them, you know, they don't get the time to read because they want to make more money. So it's compromised my grades in a way, but still I had a grade to qualify for going to China to read an engineering program. But let's go back. You know, in SHS, I sometimes went to the counselor and I'll be with the counselor and I'll ask Madam Genevieve that, "Ma'am, please, I want to be great. Just a simple question, and it will lead into like a 2-hour conversation. And I remember a time came that she asked me, "What do you want to be in the future?" And I said, "I want to be an engineer." Then she said, "Are you a Christian?" And I said, "Yes." And she said, "Okay, then we'll go the Christian way." Then she said one thing, among other things that she said, it was one thing that like encouraged me the most. She was like, as a Christian, as we all believe in, your spirit gets connected with that of God's spirit, that is, you become one with Jesus. And so anything that he wants to bring in the world now to aid his work, he's going to do that through me, and he's going to drop the idea through me and the curiosity, and that is how I'm going to bring out discoveries that are very remarkable. And I was so happy because I knew I was on my way to becoming a good engineer. Now, knowing in those times while I was thinking about machines, God was thinking about cells, but I had no clue. And one shocking thing was, even though I was always obsessed with engineering, thinking about engineering, I was instinctively drawn towards the brain. Whenever I got time, aside reading the biology and the chemistry books and the physics books, more of the biology was about the brain. I'll always go to the library and I'll be reading about like brain articles. We had some journals about, I remember one research I read about a woman with some wires tied to her head, and whenever they show her a picture and she sees it, the neurons sparks in a way, and they have a way of recording that. And I was so fascinated, like I found it very fascinating. And so I love the brain. I read about the brain. I remember my dad in grade 11, that is SHS 2, senior high school 2, gave me a mobile phone. In Ghana, it is illegal to use mobile phones in the senior high school, unless you get to the university club before you can use mobile phones. So when you brought a phone, I never used my phone in my dormitory. It was whenever they reshuffled our room, arranging all the cool boys, the guys who were more like my type, would be in a different room, in a small room. But I always end up in where the guys are, I know, yeah, you get it, man. Like, they have some kind of negative energy. So I would always be in the corner, but I never used my phone there because I felt like even though they are using theirs, I can do anything bad to them. But for me, most of them will be like, for Lapsy, that is how they used to call me. And in Form 3, I got the name Einstein. They'll be like, Lapsy wouldn't do anything, even if you take his phone. And I knew that is what they're gonna do, because they always do it like pertaining to the other stuffs that I had. But with my mobile phone, it was my first ever personal mobile phone to get. So I never wanted people to, see it and they end up stealing it from me, and just like they were thinking I can't do anything. So I never used it there. So in the evening, I'll wait till everyone is asleep at night, then I'll sneak out, go into the classrooms, and I'll just go and use the phone. And I had a number of books about neuroscience and psychology today. I'll spend, I'll put my head on the table this way, and I'll be using the phone, and just in case somebody comes, they might think I'm asleep, and as a way of hiding from harm. Yes, that is how I'm gonna put it. So, but I never got caught anyway. I was reading about neuroscience. I was just obsessed about the brains, the neurons. I did psychology today, and it got to a time that I got to know how remarkable God made a human brain when I started watching videos on, the brain and exercise and all those stuff. So I started a show in my class. We had our main whiteboard, and I also had a tripod board beside the main board that the teachers use. And I'll always write on top like Psycho Show presented by Prof. Eat. I used Prof. Eat when I was in elementary school. So during those presentations, I was not using Lapsy or Einstein. I wanted to use my own brand, Prof. Eat. Eat stands for Enoch Ajiman Chumesi, and that is my full name. But I made it short into EAT, that's Eat, so Prof. Eat. And I'll talk about the brain, like I'll write about the brain, facts about the brain, and I make sure it focuses on letting them know how remarkable God made their brain. Most of my mates had low self-esteem, not pertaining to my class. I don't mean my class, I mean like generally, most of my mates had low self-esteem. Even those who were academically good had low self-esteem, and most of them who weren't doing good, not because they weren't smart, they were equally smart, but they had that kind of low self-esteem. Teachers in Ghana will usually be like, some people are meant for academia, others are not meant for academia. But when I got to know more about the human brain, I felt like, no, one of the least things, one of the important things, one of the key roles about the brain is the ability to retain information, to learn, and also to retrieve the information. And as long as these people are normal, having 80 to 100 billion neurons, that is so remarkable. They should be able to do that. They should be able to grasp the definition of an atom and present it to you, because that is the least thing. The most critical thing is having critical thinking and bringing out, innovation. And that is where maybe you could say, oh, that is a little difficult and you're not smart enough to do it. For that, even though I don't agree with, but I'm going to agree with you just for the moment. But just for learning the chemistry and the biology that we did in ACHs, and teachers are like, some people are meant for academia, and that is why they can absorb all these and they can bring it out, and some people are not meant for academia, and so they cannot absorb it and bring it out. I wanted to disprove them. I wanted to disprove my teaching, so I'll always write on the board about the facts of the brain, like the remarkable facts. The brain is made up of 80 to 100 billion neurons, and a single neuron is very powerful in doing this, and that, and how you can grow neurons. I talk about reading and also watching television, the science behind reading and how you grow more neurons, and how, watching television, add no value to you growing neurons. I'll write all those on the board. I'll talk about how the brain is made up of 80% of water, and 2% loss of water in the brain leads to concentration, and that is why we usually sleep in a commerce class, because it's early in the morning. And I will tell them, just proving stuff about the brain, letting them know about how remarkable God made your brain. And people really liked it. So in days that I never had anything to write, they will come to me and they'll be like, Prophet, I remember Jacqueline, she will always come to me. Once you do your thing, then I'll go to the board and I'll write something down, And they really loved it, and I saw a great improvement. People were changing their habits, and me personally, it was changing my habits, especially the exercise part, when I got to know about how exercise in the morning influences how active you become in the day. Oh my God, I'll wake up very early and I'll be exercising in high school, even though we didn't have a gym or the equipment, so that I'll stay active. I loved it, I really loved it. One surprising thing about all this was that during those moments that I was reading about the brain, I never thought of going into medicine. I never thought of going into psychology. I never thought of neurosurgery or neuroscience. I was so much obsessed with engineering, even in those times when I was reading about the brain. All I was thinking about was, I had two discoveries that I wanted to make. Not a discovery, let me say an invention. I was thinking about making speakers that could fly, tiny speakers that could fly, and it will go in the rural areas where my pastor wouldn't have to, go to the rural areas, but be in the comfort of his home or in his studio, and he could preach, and those in the rural areas could hear the word of God, and they get transformed, and they gain their salvation, and together we spend time with Jesus in heaven when the history of the world has come to an end. And the second thing that I wanted to invent was a small flying ball projector that would go in the rural areas. My focus was more on the rural areas because most preachers don't go to those rural areas, and most people in the rural areas in Ghana are ignorant of so many things. So I just wanted to make that small flying projector, a ball projector, where I'm gonna project Christian movies. For that one, it wasn't preaching. I was always thinking about Christian movies, inspirational Christian movies. I love inspirational Christian movies a lot, especially on the Sabbath, where I don't have to do a lot of stuff. On the Sabbath, I avoid doing stuff that take my mind off God, so I don't even watch my medical series or anything. But the movies I watch most on Sabbath are all Christian and inspirational movies. So I'll always go to Google and I'll just type the most inspirational Christian movies of all time. And I'll get some from the Kendrick brothers and also from Pure Flix, and I'll watch them. So I wanted to, project some marriage retreat, in the rural areas where people treat their wife badly and all those kind of stuff. When I project a movie like Marriage Retreat, You're all gonna gather, in the rural area, they're all gonna gather like one evening, just watching it,